So first, in getting started, a couple of things. One, if it sounds like I'm reading from a script, it's because I am. I don't do well with these solo podcasts by my own admission. It's reading from or looking at a screen or a teleprompter is a little bit tough for me. I'd much rather be having a conversation. So please bear with me. And also, I wanted to provide a little background on the show origins for those that are curious and to lay a little groundwork for context. I get the question a lot, like, how did this get started for you based on the fact that you have a fitness background, but you don't have like a military, law enforcement, shooting, any of that kind of background. So I want to get into that. I'll just start with this. When I started this podcast, it was at a time when the world, at least for me, seemed a bit upside down. I recorded the first episode nearly a year to the day that the city and county mandated my thriving health, fitness, and wellness business close its doors in the quote-unquote best interest of the community's health. Health and fitness centers had been labeled high risk to the citizens of our city and state of California because of an airborne killer pathogen called COVID-19. So, despite attempting to play by the rules, constructing a usable outdoor gym, building online services and programs, I was desperate to try and build some level of brand awareness since the surrounding neighborhood, consisting of high-rise apartments and residential homes, was seeing a mass exodus from the overpriced and overvalued real estate in search of more reasonable and affordable areas. We all know how that is ending. So these were our friends and our clients. This was our business, and they were leaving and they were never coming back. So about a year into this nonsense, I was also literally watching the deterioration of humanity outside my front door. Drug use and addiction, psychiatric crisis, homelessness, crime, and a complete disregard for human decency, taking up sides and deliberate attempts to defame others for no other reason than they didn't agree on something. They were literally trying to destroy a person over a difference of opinion and a total disregard for the facts. And like a lot of people, it all deeply disturbed me. I experienced sadness, anger, confusion, resentment, and a whole host of emotions at a level I never could have prepared for. This all led me to find and have conversations with people that were not eating and swallowing the narratives that accompany the rhetoric and policies surrounding what we now know were fundamentally some of the greatest lies in global history. And initially, I focused the podcast conversations to the topics of health and wellness. It made sense because this is what I knew and what I knew I needed to talk about. It was also during this time that I had a major realization. So one night, I found myself standing in the lobby of my shutdown business, armed with a handgun, staring out the plate glass windows at dozens of quote-unquote mostly peaceful protesters angry about the May 2020 events in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Mind you, I live in San Jose, California. So I've been watching the events unfold on the TV like many people were, and I was doing that from my living room, which is located just blocks from my business. I knew I could not simply just sit there and watch what we had worked so hard to build and maintain be destroyed by some marauding group of entitled activists. In the lobby, I made my presence clear and my intentions known. And while I credit those actions in getting through the next several hours and the next couple of days without incident, the reality was I was completely unprepared for any of it, and that impacted me deeply. This became my why and the basis for the direction that the podcast is gone. Months later, I expanded the podcast into the idea that health and fitness are a major component of the larger concepts surrounding preparedness and self-reliance. Exploring the preparedness space then thrust me into this world of firearms training, expanded medical knowledge, combatives, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's just a whole lot of rabbit holes that I began to go down and continue to go down to this day. Well, I immediately began seeking knowledge, information, and experiences that would better prepare me for the realities of the world. My journey started locally, and it quickly expanded at the time. If you listen to the show, you've been able to sort of follow along with those experiences and the conversations that I was seeking. And this is where the After Dark episode titles actually came from. Now, 227 episodes in, life is different. My perspectives on many things are different. And in some cases, I've completely changed my mind about several things. Along the way, I built friendships. obtain vital resources and knowledge on how to obtain even more of those things. Train to read, anticipate, and respond to the realities of what exists in the world we live in. Become more self-aware of the things that challenge me emotionally, psychologically, and physically. I've educated myself and my family on key components of my learnings and experiences, and I've become even more critical of the messaging and agendas being served up by those that wear the mask of leadership or quote-unquote experts, while agency is created within the industries that support, finance, and broadcast their falsehoods. Now, none of this would have happened without the outstanding people who have agreed to connect with me. So the podcast has been a vehicle to not only connect, but to enrich my life with conversations that matter to me and to others. And as a result, I view this as a tremendous privilege and responsibility that I don't take lightly. The process has been full of challenges and lessons learned, but also rewarding in ways I could never have imagined. Now, along the way, I've done my best to view things through the lens of objectivity. In doing the podcast, I've rediscovered the internal satisfaction of doing the work to figure things out, embracing my lack of understanding, and making the calculated choice of entering a room of individuals that are way smarter than me so that I may extract whatever amount of value I possibly can while trying to simultaneously contribute. In some sense, it's all been very nourishing, I guess. So all that said, here's 3 things that these guests have taught or reinforced for me over the last couple of years, but particularly in 2023. Number 1, often the humans that have had the biggest impact on me over the last couple of years don't even realize it. So I've learned to make it a point to tell them in detail how they contributed to my journey and my process. And I thank them. Not one of these people has ever said, I wish you hadn't shared that with me, or I wish you hadn't thanked me. It's just something to think about as you consume information from this platform or anyone else's. It's polite, not weak, to show a little love from time to time. Number 2, whenever I've truly committed and invested time into someone or something, I've done so without expectation. As a result, it's incredibly easy for me to remain objective. And that said, when I recognize when it's a someone I'm committing to or investing in, and they approach me the same as I'm approaching them, there's equity and value that at the very least has resulted in a relationship built on trust and an equitable value exchange. And I think that's what most normal people want at the end of the day. But it's real interesting how unbalanced I see those scales work when observing the genres I've chosen to explore and talk about. This constantly challenges me to think about how I can contribute to those scales and what value I am or I'm not bringing to the table. Number 3, while some things in life can be taken at face value, anything worthwhile deserves some level of examination. If I don't find it worthwhile, I don't examine it. And I certainly don't waste time, energy, or resources on it. I've come to discover people that spend time, energy, and resources on the not worthwhile things, they don't have a lot of worthwhile things in their life to spend time, energy, or resources on. Maybe if they chose differently for themselves, this paradox would be different for them. I guess I'm just saying, time is valuable and you can never get it back, so choose wisely. And I'm extraordinarily grateful for the time both guests and the audience provide me. Again, as I reflect, those are just a few observations and takeaways that these guests have gifted me. But if I step back and I look at how to simplify all that into a way that might provide some direction moving into 2024 for somebody, here's a quick list of what you might stop and what you might start doing. Stop looking to someone else to solve your problems. Start by committing to the work and then do it. When you do the work, you'll often know which questions to ask and who to ask them of so you can satisfy ultimately your personal why. Stop seeking validation from others. Start spending time with the people that share your desire to be better and want that for you too. Stop with all the comparisons. Comparison is an evil bitch and often kills anything good. Start being more objective and having more honest conversations with yourself while also accepting the reality of who and where you are in your own process. Stop shitting on the people you find not worthwhile or valuable. Start genuinely engaging and thanking the people that do provide value and seek out others that can and will do the same. In wrapping up this final episode of the year, I want to sincerely thank you for listening to the show. While we always do our very best to bring a quality product to the table, I realize sometimes we're better at it than other times. I'm grateful for anyone who commits any amount of time to listening or watching, and especially for those who take time out to provide feedback. So my commitment to you is to bring you better and better conversations in 2024. So stay tuned, share it with your friends, and do all that like and subscribe stuff. Oh yeah, one last thing. Go to the fucking gym, because I wish I wasn't in such good a shape, said no one ever. Happy New Year from the Ironsides podcast. I'm out.